First contact gone wrong. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UES Horizon, her dark eyes fixed on the massive structure floating in the void ahead. The ancient alien construct was icily 5 kilometers long, its surface covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and change in the starlight. After 3 years of deep space exploration, this was exactly the kind of discovery that made Elena's heart race with excitement. The Horizon was humanity's most advanced exploration vessel, equipped with the latest scanning technology and a crew of 340 of Earth's finest scientists, engineers, and explorers. Elena had been commanding deep space missions for 15 years, but nothing had prepared her for the sheer beauty and mystery of this alien artifact. Commander Marcus Chen approached. From the tactical station, his usually calm demeanor showing hints of concern. Marcus was Elena's second-in-command, a brilliant strategist who had served with distinction in the Mars Colonial Defense Force before joining the Exploration Corps. His analytical mind was always working, always calculating possibilities and risks. "Captain, we're detecting some unusual energy readings from the structure," Marcus reported, handing Elena a data tablet. "Dr. Walsh thinks it might be some kind of automated defense system, but it's been dormant for what looks like thousands of years." Dr. Sarah Walsh was the ship's xenobiologist and first contact specialist, a position that had been largely theoretical. Until now, she had spent her entire career studying the possibility of alien life, developing protocols for peaceful communication with other species. Sarah was 35 years old, brilliant, and absolutely fascinated by the prospect of finally meeting another intelligent civilization. Elena nodded as she reviewed the data. The structure appeared to be some kind of research station or observatory, built by a species with technology far beyond current human capabilities. The architecture was unlike anything in human experience, flowing and organic, yet clearly artificial. Most importantly, it showed no signs of current occupation. "Dr. Walsh, what's your assessment for a closer approach?" Elena asked. Sarah looked up from her scanner readings, her eyes bright with scientific curiosity. "All indicators suggest the structure is abandoned, Captain. Whatever built this has been gone for millennia. However, I'm detecting faint traces of exotic matter that could indicate the presence of advanced technology we don't understand." Elena made her decision. The discovery of the first confirmed alien artifact in human history was too important to approach with excessive caution. "Take us to within 2 kilometers and begin full spectrum analysis. All departments, I want everything you can tell me about this structure within the next 6 hours." The crew responded with the enthusiasm that came from knowing they were making history. The Horizon moved closer to the alien construct, her sensors working overtime to catalog every detail. Elena watched the main screen as the structure grew larger, revealing new levels of complexity and beauty with each passing minute. That's when everything went wrong. The space around the alien structure suddenly erupted with new contacts as 3 massive warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Each vessel was over 800 meters long, covered in what appeared to be organic armor plating and bristling with weapon systems that looked nothing like human technology. Elena felt her stomach drop as the tactical displays lit up with threat warnings. These ships were not exploring or investigating the ancient structure. They were positioned in perfect attack formation, targeting the Horizon with weapons that were already charging for firing. "Red alert," Elena commanded, her training taking over despite the shock of the situation. "Shields up, all hands to battle stations." Marcus was already at his station, his fingers flying over the tactical controls. "Captain, Those ships are massive. Each one is nearly 3 times our size and showing energy signatures that suggest they're built for war. Before Alina could respond, the communication system activated without their input. The main screen filled with the image of something that made several crew members gasp in shock. The alien was tall and imposing, with pale blue skin, 4 arms, and eyes that glowed with an inner light. When it spoke, the translation system struggled to keep up with the harsh, commanding tone. "Primitive creatures," the alien said, its voice filled with disdain. "I am Overlord Thaxus of the Krillian Dominion. You have violated sacred space and must be eliminated immediately." Alina stepped forward, forcing herself to remain calm despite the obvious threat. This was humanity's first contact with another intelligent species, and she was determined to handle it properly. "I am Captain Alina Vasquez of the United Earthship Horizon. We are explorers and scientists. We meant no disrespect to your sacred space and are willing to withdraw immediately." Thaxus laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Your words are meaningless, inferior being. The Krillian Dominion has ruled this sector for 2,000 years. No lesser species is permitted to contaminate our ancient sites with their presence." Dr. Walsh quickly moved to Elena's side, her first contact protocols running through her mind. "Overlord Thaxus, we come in peace and seek only knowledge. Perhaps we can establish communication and mutual understanding between our species." The alien's glowing eyes narrowed with what appeared to be disgust. "You speak of understanding, yet you pilot ships of metal and circuit boards like primitive savages. Your species is clearly in its infancy. Submit to Dominion authority or be destroyed." Alina felt anger rising in her chest, but she pushed it down. The lives of her crew and the future of human-alien relations depended on handling this correctly. "We cannot submit to your authority, but we can discuss terms for peaceful coexistence. Surely there's no need for violence between our peoples." Thaxus's response came in the form of weapons fire. The Krillian ships opened fire without warning, their energy weapons striking the horizon's shields with devastating force. Alina was thrown from her feet as the ship shuddered under the impact, emergency lighting bathing the bridge in red as system warnings blared throughout the vessel. "Shields down to 60%. Marcus shouted over the noise. "Captain, they're not trying to disable us. They're trying to destroy us." Alina pulled herself back to her feet, her mind racing. The Horizon was an exploration vessel, not a warship. They had defensive shields and basic armaments for dealing with space debris and hostile wildlife, but nothing that could stand up to purpose-built military vessels. Evasive maneuvers. Alina ordered, "Get us out of their weapons range." The Horizon's pilot, Lieutenant Commander Alex Rivera, was one of the best in the fleet. He threw the ship into a complex series of maneuvers that had served him well during his years piloting fighters in the asteroid belt wars. But the Krillian ships were fast, despite their size, and their weapons had impressive range and accuracy. Another barrage struck the Horizon, this time penetrating the weakened shields and causing actual hull damage. The ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, and Alina could smell the acrid smoke of burning electronics. "Captain, we can't take much more of this," Marcus reported, his tactical display showing critical system failures throughout the ship. "Our weapons are insignificant against their armor, and their firepower is overwhelming." Alina made the hardest decision of her career. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump to light speed. We're retreating, as the Horizon's faster than light." Drive charged. Thaxus appeared on their screen one more time. The alien's expression was one of satisfied superiority, as if Elena's retreat proved everything he had said about human inferiority. "Run back to your homeworld, primitive creatures," Thaxis said. "Tell your leaders that the Krillian Dominion has found them. You have 45 of your days to surrender your entire species to our rule. All human colonies and ships will become property of the Dominion. Refuse, and we will hunt down every member of your pathetic race and eliminate them slowly." The screen changed to show footage that made Elena's blood run cold. Krillian forces were attacking Colony Prime, humanity's largest research settlement. In this sector, 800 men, women, and children lived and worked there, studying the unique stellar phenomena that made the system scientifically valuable. Elena watched in horror as Krillian warships bombarded the colony from orbit. The settlement's defensive shields lasted less than a minute against the alien weapons. Buildings that had taken years to construct were vaporized in seconds. People ran through the streets in panic before the bombardment consumed them as well. Dr. Walsh fell to her knees as she watched families die on the screen. These were people she knew, colleagues who had worked with her on xenological research projects, Professor Martinez, who had 3 young children, Engineer Singh, who had been planning to propose to his girlfriend when he returned to Earth, all gone in minutes of senseless slaughter. The horizon jumped to light speed just as the Krillian ships began moving in their direction. Elena slumped in her command chair, the weight of what had just happened crushing down on her. Humanity's first contact with another intelligent species had ended in massacre and a declaration of war. As they traveled back toward Earth at maximum speed, Elena called an emergency meeting of her senior staff. The ship's conference room felt smaller than usual as her officers gathered around the table, their faces showing the same shock and anger that Elena felt. "Options," Elena said simply. Marcus pulled up strategic displays showing the known extent of human space. 47 colonies spread across 32 star systems, with a total population of over 2 billion people, all of them now under threat from an alien empire that seemed to view genocide as routine policy. "Militarily, we're in serious trouble," Marcus admitted. "The Krillians have technology we can't match, and clearly no interest in negotiation. Their ships are bigger, faster, and more heavily armed than anything in our fleet." Dr. Walsh looked up from the medical reports she was reviewing. Several crew members were suffering from severe psychological trauma after witnessing the colony massacre. "From a xenological perspective, this is our worst-case scenario for first contact. The Krillians appear to view other species as inherently inferior and unworthy of existence." Elena studied the tactical data, her command experience analyzing possibilities and strategies. "What they don't understand is that they just made the biggest mistake in their empire's history." The other officers looked at her in surprise. Elena's calm confidence seemed impossible given the overwhelming threat they were facing. "Captain, I don't understand," Marcus said. "How can you be confident when we're facing a technologically superior enemy with vastly greater numbers?" Elena smiled grimly as she activated her command codes and accessed files that were classified far above the normal cruise clearance level. The holographic displays around the table lit up with ship designs, weapon systems, and military projects. That made her officers stare in amazement, because the Krillians assume that what they've seen represents the full extent of human capability, Elena explained. "They think we're primitive explorers with basic technology and no military experience. They're about to learn that humanity has been preparing for this possibility for over 50 years. The displays showed warships that bore no resemblance to exploration vessels like the Horizon. These craft were angular, predatory-looking machines covered in weapons and armor that looked like something from a nightmare. Stealth systems that could make them invisible to virtually any sensor. Weapons that didn't just destroy enemy ships, but made them disappear entirely. The Dominion rules through fear and overwhelming force, Alina continued. They've conquered 47 species by showing up with big ships and bigger guns, demanding surrender and crushing anyone who refuses. It's worked for them for 2,000 years because they've never encountered anything like human warfare. Marcus leaned forward, studying the classified ship designs with professional interest. These vessels, they're not designed for honorable combat. They're designed for total destruction of enemy forces through any means necessary. Alina nodded. The Krillians are about to discover why every species on Earth learned to fear humans long before we reached the stars. We don't fight fair. We don't show mercy to those who threaten our families. And we never, ever give up. As the Horizon raced toward Earth with news of humanity's first interstellar war, Alina began composing her report to Earth Command. The Krillian Dominion had made first contact by massacring innocent civilians and demanding the surrender of the entire human race. They thought they were dealing with primitive savages who would submit to superior firepower. Instead, they had just declared war on a species that had turned warfare into an art form. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before. Humans fighting for the survival of their species with every weapon, tactic, and strategy their brilliant, ruthless minds could devise. The countdown to humanity's response had begun, and it would be unlike anything the Krillian Dominion could imagine. The human way of War Admiral Rebecca Stone stood in the war room deep beneath Earth's primary military command center, studying the three-dimensional holographic display that showed the current state of human space. Red markers indicated confirmed Krillian positions, while blue showed human colonies and military assets. The picture was not encouraging from a traditional military perspective. Rebecca was 50 years old and had spent 30 of those years in Earth's military forces, rising through the ranks during the Mars colonial wars and the asteroid belt conflicts. She understood warfare better than perhaps any other human alive, and she knew that conventional tactics would get her species exterminated. The Krillian Dominion had 47 conquered species under their control, a fleet numbering in the thousands of warships, and military technology that was centuries ahead of standard human equipment. In any normal war, humanity would be crushed within months. But this would not be a normal war. Status report. Rebecca commanded as her staff officers gathered around the holographic display. Colonel James Rodriguez stepped forward first. James was known throughout the military as Ghost, for his ability to appear and disappear without trace during covert operations. At 44, he commanded Earth's most elite special operations forces and had personally overseen the development of humanity's most classified military projects. Admiral, Phase 1 operations are already underway, Ghost reported with quiet satisfaction. Our stealth infiltration ships have successfully penetrated Krillian space at 17 different points. The enemy has no idea we're there. Rebecca nodded as the display updated to show the positions of the infiltration craft. Each ship was smaller than a traditional fighter, built with technology that made them invisible to every known form of detection. They carried no conventional weapons, but their cargo would prove far more devastating than any missile or energy beam. General Patricia Arles, Earth's chief intelligence officer, activated her section of the display. Patricia was 46 and had spent her entire career developing ways to turn enemy technology against itself. Her specialty was psychological warfare and information manipulation. Our electronic warfare packages are performing beyond expectations, Patricia reported. We've successfully infiltrated the Krillian military communication network and have begun introducing subtle errors into their tactical data systems. The display showed the elegant simplicity of the human strategy. Rather than building bigger ships with more powerful weapons to match Krillian firepower, humans were attacking the very foundation of enemy military capability. Navigation systems that would gradually become unreliable, communication networks that would deliver false information, supply computers that would calculate incorrect inventory levels. How are they responding? Rebecca asked. Patricia smiled with professional satisfaction. They haven't noticed yet. Krillian military doctrine assumes that their technology is too advanced for primitive species to understand, let alone manipulate. They're not looking for the kind of attacks we're launching. Dr. Michael Zhang, Director of Advanced Weapons Research, stepped up to the display next. Michael was 39 years old and had spent the last decade developing weapons that most military strategists considered impossible. His projects violated several interstellar treaties that humanity had never signed. Admiral, our viral warfare programs are ready for deployment, Michael reported. Each package is designed to infiltrate enemy ship computer systems and gradually degrade performance while appearing to be normal mechanical failures. The display showed the projected timeline for the viral attacks. Krillian ships would begin experiencing random system failures within 2 weeks. Weapons that misfired at critical moments. Life support systems that occasionally malfunctioned. Navigation computers that introduced small but crucial errors into course calculations. The beauty of the system, Michael continued, is that it mimics natural equipment degradation. The Krillians will think their ships are simply aging and requiring more maintenance. By the time they realize they're under attack, their entire fleet will be compromised. Rebecca studied the data with professional appreciation. This was exactly the kind of asymmetric warfare that humans excelled at. What about their industrial capacity? Colonel Martinez, who ran Earth's sabotage operations, activated his section of the display. We've identified the locations of their primary manufacturing facilities and supply depots. Small teams are already in position with nanoscale demolition systems. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Rather than attacking heavily defended military targets, human operatives would target the infrastructure that kept the Krillian war machine running. Factories that produced ship components would suffer. Mysterious explosions, supply convoys would disappear without trace. Fuel depots would experience catastrophic failures that appeared accidental. Timeline for implementation? Rebecca asked. Phase 2 begins in 6 days, Martinez replied. We'll start with their most remote facilities and work our way toward their core systems. Each incident will appear unrelated to the others. Rebecca turned her attention to the psychological warfare division. Commander Sarah Kim was and specialized in breaking enemy morale through fear and uncertainty. Her methods were considered extreme even by human standards. Commander Kim, report on Operation Nightmare. Sarah's presentation made even the hardened military officers in the room uncomfortable. She had studied every aspect of Krillian psychology and culture, identifying their deepest fears and superstitions. Her plan would exploit those weaknesses ruthlessly. The Krillians believe in the concept of the perfect death, Sarah explained. Warriors who die in honorable combat achieve spiritual fulfillment. However, Those who die from unknown threats or mysterious circumstances are believed to be cursed for eternity. The display showed recordings of Krillian military communications that had been intercepted and analyzed. The aliens discussed battle and death in terms of honor and glory, viewing warfare as a noble pursuit that elevated both winners and losers. Phase 3 will introduce them to a different kind of warfare, Sarah continued. Their ships will begin disappearing without explanation. Crews will be found dead with no signs of violence or system failure. Entire bases will go silent with no indication of what happened to the personnel. Rebecca understood the psychological impact this would have. The Krillians had conquered dozens of species through overwhelming force and intimidation. They were accustomed to enemies who fought back with conventional tactics. They had no experience with an opponent that struck from shadows and left no trace. How do we ensure they know it's us without compromising operational security? Rebecca asked. Sarah smiled coldly. We'll leave messages in ancient human languages that their translation systems can't decode. They'll know the attacks are coming from us, but they won't understand how we're doing it or how to stop it. The final phase of the operation was perhaps the most ambitious. Dr. Lisa Park, head of biotechnology research, presented her contribution to the war effort. Lisa was 41 and had spent years developing biological weapons that were specifically designed to be non-lethal but completely incapacitating. Admiral, we've developed airborne agents that will affect Krillian neurochemistry, Lisa reported. The compounds are undetectable by their medical systems and will cause increasing paranoia, hallucinations, and breakdown of unit cohesion. The biological warfare program was designed to be completely invisible. Krillian ships would be infiltrated with microscopic agents that would gradually affect crew psychology. Soldiers would become suspicious of their officers. Officers would become paranoid about sabotage and treachery. Command structures would break down as trust eroded. The psychological effects will compound over time, Lisa explained. Within 3 months, their military will be experiencing widespread discipline problems, mutinies, and complete breakdown of command authority. Rebecca stepped back from the display and looked at the overall strategic picture. The human plan involved no direct military confrontation, no honorable battles between fleets, and no conventional tactics that the Krillians would recognize as warfare. Instead, humanity would attack the enemy's technology, infrastructure, psychology, and biology simultaneously. The Krillian Dominion would find their ships failing, their supplies disappearing, their crews going insane, and their entire military structure collapsing from within. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca announced to her staff, we are about to teach the galaxy what happens when you threaten human civilians and demand our surrender. The Krillians think war is about honor and glory. They're about to discover that, for humans, war is about winning by any means necessary. 3 weeks later, Overlord Thaxus stood on the bridge of his flagship, staring at reports that made no sense. His invasion fleet had been experiencing an unprecedented series of equipment failures and accidents. Ships that had been perfectly maintained were breaking down for no apparent reason. Supply convoys were disappearing without trace. Entire bases had gone silent with no explanation. Thaxus was beginning to experience something he had never felt before in 200 years of military service: fear. The first ship had vanished 12 days ago. The crew of 300 simply disappeared, leaving the vessel drifting empty through space. There were no signs of battle damage, no indication that the life support systems had failed, no evidence of what had happened to the people inside. Then more ships started disappearing, Always the same pattern. The vessel would be found intact, but completely deserted. Security recordings showed nothing unusual until the moment they simply stopped working. The crew would be gone as if they had never existed. Thaxus's own ship was beginning to experience problems. Random system failures that his engineers couldn't explain. Communication equipment that delivered garbled messages. Navigation systems that occasionally provided incorrect readings. His crew was becoming nervous and suspicious, questioning orders, and jumping at shadows. The psychological pressure was making Thaxus question his own judgment. Were the humans somehow responsible for these problems? It seemed impossible. The primitive species he had encountered could barely manage faster-than-light travel. How could they infiltrate Dominion space and attack his forces without being detected? Emperor Vexta's face appeared on the communication screen, his expression showing the same confusion and growing fear that Thaxus felt. The supreme ruler of the Krillian Dominion had conquered most of the galaxy through superior technology and overwhelming force. Nothing in his experience had prepared him for this kind of warfare. "Overlord Thaxus," the Emperor said, his voice lacking its usual commanding authority. "What is your assessment of the human response? Our intelligence suggests they have only a few dozen warships and no significant military capability." Thaxus looked at the tactical display showing the current status of his invasion fleet. Of the original 300 ships, 47 had disappeared completely. Another 60 were experiencing severe system failures that kept them out of combat. The remaining vessels were spread across human space, but their crews were increasingly unreliable and prone to panic. "Emperor, I believe we have severely underestimated the humans," Thaxus admitted. "They are not fighting us with conventional tactics. They are using methods of warfare that our military doctrine never anticipated." The Emperor's glowing eyes narrowed with anger and frustration. "Explain." "They attack from shadows, Your Highness. They strike without warning and disappear without trace. They turn our own technology against us and make our crews afraid of their own shadows. This is not warfare as the Dominion understands it." As if summoned by their conversation, new reports began arriving on Thaxus's communication system. Another supply depot had exploded under mysterious circumstances. 2 more ships had been found drifting empty. Several base commanders were reporting that their personnel were experiencing hallucinations and paranoid episodes. The final blow came in the form of a message that appeared simultaneously on every Krillian communication system throughout the fleet. The transmission bypassed all security protocols and displayed a simple message in ancient human script that their translation computers couldn't decode. But the meaning was clear from the accompanying imagery: scenes of Krillian ships breaking apart, crews fleeing in terror, and bases consumed by mysterious explosions. At the bottom of the message was a single line in basic Galactic script: "This is just the beginning." Emperor Vexta stared at the message in growing horror. For the first time in the Dominion's 2,000-year history, he was facing an enemy that fought without honor, without mercy, and without any regard for the rules of civilized warfare. "Overlord Thaxus," the Emperor said quietly, "I want you to open communication channels with the human leadership. Tell them we are prepared to negotiate a ceasefire." Thaxus felt something he had never experienced before: relief at the prospect of retreat. "Your orders, Emperor." "Tell them we withdraw our demand for surrender. Tell them we are willing to discuss territorial boundaries and non-aggression agreements. And tell them—" The Emperor paused, his pride warring with the reality of the situation. "Tell them we respect their capabilities and wish to avoid further conflict. As the Krillian fleet began its withdrawal from human space, word of the conflict spread throughout the galaxy. The mighty Dominion, conquerors of dozens of species, had been forced to retreat by a small, primitive race that most galactic civilizations had never heard of.